Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. Today I actually have a fun video. This one was actually recommended by someone in the Discord, and I want to make sure that I give them a shout out because it was a very good question. This actually came directly from Golden Skulltula in the Discord. So if you guys haven't checked out the Discord or liked or subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that now. It helps out a ton. But I want to give him a shout out because his video question was a great video, he said, and I'm paraphrasing, it's not a quote, but would be a short video on my opinion on the cybersecurity degree. He said he thinks that many people in the industry are seeing a huge skill gap currently not being filled by kids that are getting cyber degrees. He wants to know my opinion and then how I feel, or my advice for the colleges as well, for the universities. So the reason I wanted to touch this is I talk about it a lot in the Discord, and I've talked about it a lot on the YouTube, that college degrees is kind of it doesn't mean much in this world, right? And I want to talk about that further and show and explain my opinion on it. So I will say this: if you have the means, if you just want to click the video, hear my opinion, and move on, you don't want to actually see my breakdown and understanding of it. If my opinion is, if you have the means to get a degree, do so. If you don't need it. Okay, and that's my short synopsis, but I'm going to break down all my opinions. You'll get a much more detailed perspective here. So first thing first, I pulled up, and I just pulled up WGU because it's one that is very popular right now. It's a degree program that you can do at your own pace, and the reason I did it is I pulled up two programs. One is WGU and one is SANS, and the reason both are bachelor's programs, and I'm going to walk through the content, and you're going to see the difference in pricing and also the difference in content, so you can see that not all degrees are created equal, and that's kind of my point. So first things first, this is their PDF of the synopsis of their Bachelor's of Cybersecurity, and you can see it looks good from this perspective, right? It looks good for, okay, well, we're getting the IT foundations, we're getting legal issues, we're getting all this stuff, right? Well, here's the problem, and let's dive deeper into it as we go look. So prerequisites, to move on to each section, you have to finish a first amount of them, right? So to move on to prerequisite to the network section, you have to do these three, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to finish, you can't just go in any order you want. That's great. One of the things to look at is changes to curriculum, okay. So these are just basic overarching stuff. It's not the, here we go, IT fundamentals. Okay, so here's kind of the synopsis of what the IT fundamentals covers. So this course covers the following competencies. The learner explains the different computer hardware and network technologies and their developments. The learner describes fundamental data management functions, database data. The learner identifies components of software. So I will tell you, I've taken courses like this, okay? I've seen this stuff. These are courses, and here's one of the problems I have with this type of course, and that's why I brought this specific course up, right? They're showing you that all these different things. They're saying, hey, look, here's the synopsis. You get all this stuff. Here's everything you're going to cover. But the reality is what they're doing is they're offloading the information. So what I mean by that, they're offloading the actual, there's no instructor sitting there walking you through. They're offloading that. They're taking certs. So you can see, here's the certifications that you'll get during this. And if you look at all these certs that you're going to get, right? So it looks good because you're like, oh, I'm going to get all these certs. I'm going to get foundational knowledge, da-da-da-da. But what's happening is they're actually just, I don't want to say it's a scam because it's not. They came up with a good program. But the problem is there's no human element, meaning you're not learning from somebody that's in the field. You're not learning from somebody that understands what's going on. So what's happening is they're taking all the A+ content and they're making a class and saying, here's A+. Once you pass A+, you're done with this course. Okay, cool. Let's go to Net+. Here's Net+, blah, blah. Okay, there, you're done with the course, right? So you're knocking out courses as fast as you can, which is not the way to learn. That is an incorrect way to learn because you're not retaining content. So that's one reason why I think degrees in this industry are very much, nobody cares about them. And I say that until you get to a certain level. I'll say that. So that's why I personally recommend you get into the industry and finish your degree as you're working. Some people say, I can't do that, I have this, I have that. Those are all excuses. I don't care. You can say what you want, but people do it every single day. So if they can do it, you can do it. Whatever you got going on, you can make it happen. That's number one, because I'll show you the next stat that's going to be very interesting here in a second. But what they're doing is they're just offloading this coursework. They're not changing anything. They're not designing anything. They're not creative. They are literally saying, here's the content for A+, here's the content for Sec+, here's the content for CYSA, here's the content for this, right? And they're saying, pass the test and you're done. They don't even have to give the test. What I mean is they don't have a test take, or they don't have an instructor that's giving you a test. He's not designing curriculum. He is literally just giving you the A+ test, and once you take it and pass, you're good to go. It's just proctored just like a normal test. So that sounds great, but you're flying through these because the faster you get done, the faster you get your degree done. So if you take A+ day one, by the time you get down to these Linux essentials, whatever, you've passed all this other stuff, you don't remember anything from A+. So you've just wasted all that. Yeah, you have the cert, but I can tell you I've interviewed people that have gone to WGU. I've interviewed people that have degrees like this from all these different universities that do this. And what happens is you go, okay, you have all these certs. And I will tell you two things. One, the second I see all these certs on a list or on a resume, I go, okay, they went to WGU. That tells me right there their education background. I don't have to go look, do you have a degree? I don't care if you even have the degree. It doesn't matter, because I know you went to a school that just fast forwarded you and tried to get you through as fast as possible, didn't teach you anything. So that's one problem with it right now, because this is starting to get a reputation of that. The other problem is the fact that now, don't get me wrong, this is good content if you're going to take your time, learn it, go through, validate your knowledge, all of that stuff. But if you just go through and knock out the test to move on to the next one as fast as possible to get your degree really quickly, that's not helping anybody. But what happens is these institutions are doing this because they see kind of a money grab, right? But here's the next step that's interesting. So if you get a degree, right, because I just told you I think you should work in the industry and not in cybersecurity. Understand that in IT, you need to get a background in IT. You will learn way more foundational and fundamental knowledge in IT than you ever will in a degree program like this, because you get real world hands-on knowledge. Now, the reason I say that is because look at this next stat. So you might say, what's the average salary for a graduate? Because that's what some people want to compare it to. That's what I get asked a lot. It's like, but if I get a degree, I'll make X amount. If I get experience, or if I go straight into like help desk, I make X amount. That's true. But look at this. Right here. Okay. 2 years after graduation, WGU graduates are making $22,000 more than they started out. 4 years, they're making $30,000 more. Think about that for a second. What is the difference from the time they graduated to 4 years later when they're making 30 grand more? Think about it. Experience. They now have 4 years experience. The degree, and this is WGU stat, the degree means absolutely dog shit. Because guess what? I bet if you do a study and look at if they didn't have that degree, I bet you they still make $30,000 more in 4 years. That is because they have experience, right? So the bachelor's degree might get you an interview, might give you a leg up, might make you look a little nicer, right? But that experience is the stat to pay attention to here. 4 years after that degree, they're making $30,000 more than when they started. That's a huge, huge telling thing. WGU actually put this out to say, hey, look, people with our degree make $30,000 in 4 years. So get our degree and you'll make $30,000 in 4 years, right? But what they don't realize is they're actually invalidating themselves by saying the degree didn't mean anything. They were making $30,000 after they got 4 years experience, right? So that's a really telling sign to me. Now, okay, you might say, well, you're just hating on degrees. Well, kind of, but I don't like the degrees that just give you certs. But look at this. Keep in mind, I just said I don't like them. But SANS has a bachelor's degree now. This is a new thing. They've had it for like a year or so. Now, one thing I wanted to point out, and I didn't show you guys, is right here, I think it was, the average cost for the WGU program is about $18,460. That's for 2 years. Okay, understand that. Because most people don't go there for their gen eds. which is your general education, your algebra, your whatever speech. So about 20 grand, right? Give or take, depending on how long it takes you. So that's one thing. Now, here you have the bachelor's degree for SANS. Okay. Well, if you look, this is 100% online, just like WGU was, right? And then you have same kind of concept. It says SANS.edu program is 2 years duration, so same thing. But you notice the $40,000 paycheck, right? You might be saying, "Ooh, that's a lot more expensive." It is. But look at what you get, right? 9 GX certifications. Okay? Might not seem like anything, but look at this. The average starting salary for someone with a SANS degree is $110,000. Starting salary. They also have a 94% employment rate. So let me ask you this. If I told you tomorrow, I will pay you $100,000 next year if you pay me $40,000 this year, would you do it? Right? And some of you may say, well, I don't have $40,000. I get it. But they have payment plans. There's programs to help pay. There's different ways to get that money, right? You can make it happen. I promise you can, right? So think about that. You get what you pay for with degrees. Now, some of you may say, well, why SANS better? Well, if you don't know what a GX cert is, GX is Global Information Assurance or something like that. I don't know the actual exact acronym off the top of my head. But GX certs are the best certs in the industry. So they're giving you 9 certs, whereas WGU is giving you a lot more. You get like 20 or something throughout the course. But they're giving you 9. Some of them are very low level. But GSEC is one of the certs you get in this, and it is one of the most sought after certs in the entire industry. Right? The $40,000 paycheck may sound like a lot to you too. But go look at SANS courses if you want to take one right now. They're $9,000 a pop. Well, you're getting 10 of them here for $40,000. So you're actually getting a good deal. And I'm an advocate for SANS, but when I say an advocate, I mean I like SANS. I'm not sponsored by them in any means or anything like that. I'm just a very big advocate because I think their content's the best. But you may say, what makes them better? And that's a very valid question. But the thing that makes them better is in order to be a SANS instructor, you have to still be actively working in the industry. And it is competitive to be an instructor. People want to instruct at SANS. Nobody wants to instruct at WGU. And I'm not saying that as an insult to WGU. I'm saying that is how it works, right? Now, so come back to our overall overarching question, is certs good for the degree good for the industry, for kids getting in the industry? No, I don't think so, because they're missing a huge piece. They have all of this fake pseudo knowledge that's been pumped into them. They don't have any hands-on experience. SANS, every single course has a hands-on component. WGU, these online courses, they don't have that because A+ doesn't have practice or hands-on component. CompTIA Security Plus doesn't have a hands-on component. Now, some of you may say, well, they have PBQs, which is performance-based questions. That's not the same thing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about real-world experience, real active hands-on keyboard doing a task, not drag and drop shit like that. So understand there's a difference. This shows you get what you pay for, is my point. So one, do I think degrees are a complete waste? Not always. I think if it's the right degree for you and it makes sense and it's a good degree, then yes, it's good. The problem is people are getting somewhat scammed on them. The second piece is if you don't retain the knowledge, if you're not applying it, then it's useless. For instance, that's why we go to the next piece. I went here to Indeed, and I just found a entry-level position. I just went to a random location I found one that doesn't require like a TS or anything. This is an entry-level cybersecurity position. Understand the difference, because guess what? I'm going to show you. This is an entry-level position. Okay? And this is where people get it wrong a lot. Scroll down. You get the information from it, okay? And we're going to talk about it. But look at the minimum qualifications. At least 4 years of professional IT experience. Guess what? You might have a degree, and that's great. you're still not qualified for this, because look at the next one, a high school diploma. Even if that says bachelor's degree, you're still not qualified because you don't have 4 years experience. So you, out of college, cannot get this job, and it is an entry-level cyber position. Why? Because you don't have IT experience. So a lot of people argue with me on this a lot. They say, well, I'm very skilled, or I know this a lot. I know a lot of this and that and blah, blah, blah. I don't care. If you have not worked in an IT environment, I am never going to hire you, ever. And there's a reason. Let me show you why. Look at some of this. These are the duties, okay? 1, provide technical advice on design, procurement, and implementation of networks. Cool. Guess what? Out of college, you have never designed, you have never procured through any process or workflow, and you've never implemented a network in any facet in a business enterprise environment, meaning in a large-scale environment where there's a lot of considerations, right? So those are the first tasks. You've never done any of that out of college, no matter what college you go to, because that requires an enterprise level or a corporate level fundamental understanding of how IT works in that environment. And so right off the bat, okay, answer technical questions for the U.S. District Court of Kentucky. Maybe you might be able to do that one because it's just questions, right? You could probably do that. Provide subject matter expertise on issues like firewall, DNS, and other specific network technologies. Now, a lot of you watching the video, probably in college, go, I could do that. Could you? Because I use this example a lot. DNS is one of the most simple things out there, and I use this example all the time. If I say to you, what is DNS? Most of you will say, oh, well, it maps, it's addressing, it's going to map your IP to your host name, and you're going to give me what it is. And I'm going to go, okay, cool, thank you. Awesome. And then I'm going to put you in front of a keyboard and go, hey, I need a new DNS server stood up. I need it to have X amount of entries. I need it to have MX records, quadruple A records, text records, and here's all the stuff, right? And they go, what do you mean, right? That's the difference. Somebody that maybe never went to college, never anything, could stand me up that DNS server in a couple hours and we're on our way. You can't out of college because you've never been exposed to that environment. And this is something that I talk about a lot, right? And as we go down, it's going to continue. Like I'm not just going to sit here and repeat the same thing. That's the reality, is the experience is what matters. But a lot of people say, okay, that's great, like whatever, but I can learn all that. Okay, great. Guess what? I can teach an IT person security way faster than I can teach a security graduate IT. It's just reality. It's just reality. It takes a long time to learn fundamentals. If you skip those fundamentals and go straight to security, like a lot of people try, guess what? Now you're sitting here in security going, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this. And you're backwards learning. And so it actually delays your career by quite a bit typically. Now, so I'm not just going to sit here and beat a dead horse and keep talking about that part. But the next part is, what can colleges do? What is my advice? Now, this is not all-inclusive, right? Every college is different. They can't all do this. They can't all do things about it. But what can colleges do? And I think SANS is an example of why they're leading the industry. Not all colleges can do it, but SANS was the first that I'm aware of, I will say that, to do this. Hire people that currently work in the industry. We have to change our model of how we're teaching. We cannot sit here and say, come to school, XYZ to XYZ at this date, and while you're at school, I'm going to have an instructor stand in front of you that built a curriculum, and he's going to tell you exactly what security is all about. Because guess what? Security from 5 years ago is not the same as today. It's not going to be the same in 5 years from now. Think about when AI dropped, right? Every college instructor, think about that. When AI came out, when ChatGPT, generative AI, when this came out, every single college instructor, I guarantee you, started building a course on it, right? Or every college did. How can you build a course on generative AI if you have been working at a college and you're not in the IT department, you're not using generative AI? Well, a lot of you are probably going to tell me that they went and they researched it and they did it and da-da-da. Cool. That's awesome. I applaud them for taking that initiative. The reality is that's not how it's actually implemented. That's not how it's actually being used. You can research it all day long, but we run back to the same problem. You're learning from somebody that has no experience in the industry doing things, and they're teaching it to you. So now you're not only removed from the experience piece, but you're twice removed because he's removed from the experience piece or she's removed from the experience piece. We have to have people teaching that have the real world experience, current real world experience, and continue to stay up to date on that real world experience. That's the only way it's going to work, because things change in IT so rapidly that what you learn today is different tomorrow. So if you're learning that from somebody that hasn't been in the industry for 5, 10, 20 years, he doesn't know what's going on. He may tell you he does. He may keep up on trends, or they may keep up on trends. They may read a lot of, knowledge, but that's all a theoretical perspective. That's not a technical hands-on perspective. So that's one piece we have to address. You have to change the model of the current learning system in that facet. Now, that brings me to cybersecurity boot camps as well. Those have the same issue, where those are better in the sense of they do teach you decent knowledge. The problem, because they give you hands-on experience and stuff like that, the problem is they're so accelerated that you're just brain dumping. You just want to get to the end, pass it, and then you forget everything you learned. That's not the way to learn. That's the other alternative that I think needs to happen. Personally, I think we get rid of the bachelor's degree. We don't call it that. I understand that's how it's worked for years and years. We don't call it a bachelor's degree. We just say you have kind of like an apprenticeship journeyman type deal, just like electricians, linemen, plumbing, all that stuff. I think that's how we go. And I think not only do we go that route, but when you're learning those degrees, right? I think the certifications like CISP and things like that have requirements, I think that's the next piece as well, because that means you can't just go take a cert, forget it, not worry about it, and then 10 years later be like, well, I got CISP, so I deserve this job. That's not the route. I think CISP has a requirement for you have to have so many years experience and a sponsor and everything else. I think that's the other route we go to. You have to validate knowledge, because there's people that proxy tests, there's cheaters on certs, there's all kinds. That's why certs are not a scam, but they're basically, they get your foot in the door past HR, but you're not going to fluff a security person that's interviewing you, or an IT person. If they ask you a technical question, they know the answer. That's one thing that has blown my mind forever is I'll interview somebody and I ask a question and they give me a lie. They just make something up. But I'm like, I asked that question because I know the answer. Like, I wouldn't ask you a question I don't know the answer to, because what's the point? So that's another thing is I see people lie a lot in interviews because they aren't sure and they don't want to look silly. And it's like, you look worse because I know the answer and you're not accurate. So that's kind of my take on it. I know I kind of ended there, but I don't have a whole lot left to give you guys. I think we have to look at a different model of education for specialized career fields like this. It's the same. I use this comparison a lot. It's the same as doctors, surgeons, all that stuff. They don't just go to school. They go to school. They go to clinicals. They go to hospitals. They learn on the job, right? They learn. And then once they're a doctor, right, if they want to be a surgeon or whatever, they have to go watch that so many times and do things. And I don't know the whole requirements, but they have to do more than just go to a classroom. We cannot have the same expectation as somebody that goes into a classroom every day to learn, writing, right? Because they can write all day long. You can't do IT all day long on enterprise infrastructures without having that opportunity. So I think there needs to be more involvement with companies, with corporations, with colleges, with all of the education system. I think there should be an apprenticeship type system where you say, hey, we're going to hire you, but we're going to hire you at $40,000. You've got no experience. You got nothing, right? We're going to get you. You're going to do a year in help desk. You're going to do a year as a system administrator. You're going to do a year as a network administrator. And then as long as you are excelling at all those fields, we are then going to jump over to the next phase. So that's what I think, guys. Let me know what you guys think. If you like this video, hit the like button. Thanks, guys.